Hello, everyone. Scott Zambelli here. I'm one half of Team Titans Real Estate with Joe Webler. We're based out of Realty Executives' hometown, Shelby Township, Michigan. But you are watching Odd Musings, and Brett will be joining us shortly. He was having a little bit of technical difficulty there. I think he has to reboot his computer there to get it on. So in the meantime, let me pull up our ad sponsors. But while I'm doing that, I just want to say we got an exciting show for you today. We're going to be talking about a couple different things. One of them is I went and saw Kingsman movie last night. So I will give a spoiler-free review on that today. I won't get in depth on that just because, it's a new movie. I don't want to give spoilers on that. Another thing we're going to be talking about today, episode 2 of the Book of Boba Fett came out on Disney Plus. So we'll just give a spoiler-free reaction to that, but we will be going back to last week we'll be talking about last week's episode, I should say, of episode 1 of the Book of Boba Fett. We'll give a full review of that since it's now been out for a week. And last but not least, our main topic is this topic known as the inner monologue or inner voice that some of us have and some don't. It's an interesting concept, an exploration into how we think. It's very cool. Never, we live in our thoughts all the time, and don't really think about how other people think. We just assume everyone thinks the same. So we're going to dive into that a little bit as well. So I'm just pulling up our pages here for our sponsors real quick so I can share it. So we got Loringer Family Chiropractic. They're based out of Belleville, Michigan here. Let me get their page up. Here we go. I'm just grabbing it now. Actually, I'll cover Team Titans first because I know that one by heart, whereas Brett usually covers Loringer. So I'll share this one first. That gives Brett a little bit of time to join us here. But Team Titans Real Estate, why? Because you matter. That's right. Even though we utilize the latest in tools, technology, social media to maximize your home buying and selling experience, we never forget that at the core of the business, it's still a people business and always will be. And Jill and I take that seriously as we really take the time to get to know you, find out who you are, what your goals and needs are. Because if you use a cookie cutter approach, you're going to get cookie cutter results. And we really want to maximize things for your situation. And, on the surface, you might be saying, hey, well, everyone just wants the most money possible. Well, that's true, but there are other factors involved too. Sometimes speed is more important. Location might be more important. Certain specific things might be more important. And then on the flip side, it could be you aren't quite ready yet. And we can help walk you down that path to prep yourself for home ownership. As I was saying in some of my videos I posted earlier this week, everybody's got New Year's resolutions that they do. They want to, lose weight, eat better. It's usually health related, these goals. But the vast amount of research out there proves they don't work. They fail. People fail at their goals. And the reason is they typically don't come up with a game plan. They just jump into it and they work hard at it for about 2 weeks and then they give up because they're not getting the results that they want. So contact us and we will be those professionals to help guide you through your path of home ownership through our counseling. And there's Brett jumping in there.
Yeah, it's for internet issues again. So
yeah, that's okay.
We had a transformer go out in the area. It didn't really affect us power-wise, but our internet went out a couple times. So
was that the Unicron variant of transformer?
It was the
Megatron. But
it was
anyways,
the Omicron,
guys,
it was the Omicron Percy i8.
There you go. So anyways, guys, if you have the goal of any kind of home ownership, home buying, home selling this upcoming year, give us a call. We'll consult you. We will put you on the path to reach that New Year's resolution of yours for home ownership. Team Titans Real Estate. Oh, I got to give you our number. 586-232-5144 is our hotline. Jill and or I will answer the call.
Excellent.
And there you have it. And we also have Loringer Family Chiropractic. Want me to share my screen?
Yeah, if you got it up.
I've got That's what
Yeah,
she said. Oh, in honor of Sean Forney.
yeah.
There we go. Lord, your family chiropractic.
Why? Because you matter. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, at Lord Family Chiropractic, we take great pride in providing the finest chiropractic care to each and every patient, offering on-site digital X-rays, massage therapy, arthritis levels, young living essential oils, digital X-rays. I think I mentioned that. All in a family-oriented environment. Give them a call, and we'll pull it up in just a second here where you can actually call them at. So it can be in Belleville, Michigan, or Dexter, Michigan.
Their Belleville number is 734-697-4244. And if you're in Dexter, it's 734-426-3994.
Excellent. So yeah, we've been most of day one. We appreciate them. I was there yesterday, and in this brutally cold weather that we're starting to get here now, it's definitely well needed adjustments to help stay healthy and fit and as best you can, and as all part of your daily wellness activities. So definitely check out chiropractic in your area. And if you happen to be in the southeastern Michigan area, check out Lawrence Family Chiropractic. So
awesome. Yeah, they do great work.
Yes, definitely.
So as I was saying just before you came on, as in the intro, today's going to be a fun show. We're going to talk about the inner monologue and how the brain, how different people think. We don't usually think about how someone else thinks. We just assume that everyone does the same, but turns out we don't.
Yep. So for those of you that have an inner monologue, you'll be able to hear us as we now transition just to our inner monologues.
And then in addition to that, Book of Boba Fett episode 2 came out. So if you're watching and posting, do not post spoilers. We'll give a spoiler-free reaction, but we're going to go in depth on episode 1, which premiered last week. And then I saw Kingsman last night, so I'll give a spoiler-free review there. How about you, Brett? What else? What did you cover? What did you do this week?
Well, other than work, I took the weekend off for the holiday just to kind of rest, regroup, and get ready for this new year. And it was a busy week last week, of course, with everybody getting ready for their New Year's Eve parties. A lot of people, of course, staying home, but there were some people that went out. But I know a lot of people were ordering a lot of alcohol to have for the weekend. They're getting ready. So, and of course, a lot of kids are going back to school this week, some remote, some in person. So it depends on where you're at. So I think they're also getting ready for a lot of that too. So at least here in Michigan, I know some states I think may still be off for the rest of this week and start back next week. It varies depending where you're at and that. But other than that, I did that. There's a new Halo game on the Xbox. I've been playing a little bit here and there just to kind of distract myself from it. And I've been lettering pages. I've got 21 pages done on Crimson Shadows 3, and I will be downloading the rest of the pages today and working on them tonight. So,
yep. And then on the coloring front, I've got through pages 28 done, and 29 and 30 right now are 60-70% done. The shadings are all done on them, and now I'm just doing the final bells and whistles, as they like to call it, the final like color tints and highlights and things like that. But I'm loving how this is looking. I got to review Brett's initial letter run. So once he's done, we'll do a final pass through and do final touches. But it's looking awesome. We're all, and there's Kevin. Howdy, Kevin.
Yeah, he's chiming in from the Tampa Bay airport, getting ready to come back to this frigid, cold Michigan weather.
Yeah, you might want to stay there. Stay, don't come back. No, but all three of us, I think, when we talked off air, we're so excited to get this to print. We're still on track to have this on time with the promised date of by the end of February. My goal is to have it end of January or beginning of February. It'll really come down to the lead time that our printing company will need, but we're right on track. So I'm very happy with everything.
Yeah, we're on track. I believe to lock it down within the next week.
I believe so.
So that's looking really good. Excited about that. And then we've got the Frankenstein book that we'll be doing at. We've got the Poe pins from Kevin. We'll be doing a small Kickstarter on that. That I think is only going to be a couple week Kickstarter. So it'll be a very tight window for that one, guys. So if you're looking to get some really cool pins, I've seen them. They look awesome and the quality is fantastic. You want to do that. And then we're going to probably jump right into the Poe trade and Crimson Shadows trade as we're getting ready to move in with other titles. Because
right now we've got Crimson Shadows 3 is about to ship. But then, like you said, we got Crimson Shadows or Poe's 3 trade coming out. We've got the with bonus material. We've got the Crimson Shadows trade, which is coming out with bonus material.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got the Frankenstein. So right now we have 3 books that are very close to being fully ready to go to print. So this Crimson Shadows one, issue 3, we kind of had a bigger lead time than we like because of the way everything was going to time out with the holidays. We didn't want to run a Kickstarter during Christmas. So we bumped it up a little earlier than we usually do, but we're still keeping our schedule. So
Yep. And then everything else, like I said, the trades are really cool to collect. Even though if you've gotten all the issues, the trade will have some bonus material you don't have, as well as I've seen the really cool cover that Kevin's been doing for Poe.
Yes, I'm excited for that. That's looking great.
So we're not going to give any announcements on that. We'll let Kevin do that when he's ready. But you guys are going to I think it's going to make an awesome collection to have with that.
Yeah, Bardstone is really entering. We're launching 2022 here, and we are really at a good pace. We have a lot of stuff that's getting ready to be loaded into that Kickstarter chamber to be fired off to all you fans out there. So we're really excited. Good stuff. I'm telling you.
Yep. And we'll have a whole list of shows. We'll list where you can find us at. I forgot about it. I got in and forgot about it immediately, but Kevin reminded me we've got a show, the NWI show Kevin and I are doing with Brian Gabrinsky. I believe it's his show.
Cool.
And I told myself I don't remember applying for it. I guess I did. So got in there. That's fine. So we'll do that.
Where's it located?
It's over outside Chicago. But it's like right on the north corner of the Indiana there. And then we've got the Great Lakes show coming up at the end of February. And then the week after that, Kevin and I will be in Elkhart for the Elkhart show.
Nice.
So, but yeah, the NWI Comic Con is February 12th. So that'll be coming up a little faster than you realize. It's already, we're already January 5th. I know it doesn't seem like much, but it's good next week. It'll be a month away next week. So, but it's at the Lake County Fairgrounds in Crown Point, Indiana.
Nice.
So we'll be doing that one there. I've heard good things about that one over the years, and I probably applied for it just like, let's see what happens, and I got in. And so did Kevin, so that works out good. So we'll hang out for that. And then the Elkhart one, Kevin did that this past year. A lot of great fans there, so looking forward to going back there. And of course, with the Great Lakes, it's always nice to be back at Great Lakes. Because it's been 2 years since Great Lakes for us, other than he did some local shows, but the February one, which is the one to do, So we'll be back there. And then, and if you guys are looking to get some individual issues, I know talking with Kevin, I've talked with Scott Moore, we'll have to see what we all have. I got to do my inventory real quick this next week and see what we can actually bring to the shows. That's why going to trade is going to be important for us, I think. So we can get the stories out to you. And then we're all moving on forward with another issues of, with Crimson Shadows. We'll have something after issue 3. I know talking with Kevin, he's going to do Poe Macabre Volume 2, issue 1. Will be coming out sometime later this year, and he's working on some stuff for that too. So it's gonna be a lot of great stuff coming out. And then of course I am working on the Boomtown stuff. I finally got my drawing monitor back working again. I realized what the problem was. So
good.
So I can actually get back to working on those pages as well as because I want to start inking that book next. And I still got to finish penciling some of the pages, but I was thinking I might just start inking it just to kind of get me on track and get some pages done. And that'll be I will not be doing a Kickstarter on issue 5 of Boomtown Scabs. But we'll probably run a small one for to get the trade out, and we'll have that announced as soon as possible on that too. So
perfect, yeah. So we got some exciting stuff going on.
Yep,
full show. And happy New Year to everyone.
Yeah, 2022.
We haven't done the show since last year.
I know, and I love the meme though, and it's always I think it's Affleck going, and it's and it says, when you realize that 2022 is pronounced 2022. It's like, oh man, we got to do it again. I hope not.
As in 2020 also.
Yes.
Or part 2.
Yeah. So hey, let's talk. Let's give your Kingsman real quick. Your spoiler free on Kingsman.
Okay, let me get over to that screen to put up there. Wait, block that. I hate when it plays sound when I go to share.
I didn't hear any sound, so.
Well, I didn't share it yet. I didn't want the sound to play, so I shouldn't be playing any sound now. So there you see the King's Man versus the King's Man as one word for the other trilogy that we already have seen with what was his name, Edgar Tartington or something like that.
Edgerton. It's Edgerton. Yeah.
Edgerton.
Taron Edgerton, and he
Okay.
plays Eggsy, and he's got
There you go.
one more movie coming in that series, and they're wrapping that up. But this is what I understood as this is the prequel of how the Kingsmen organization was founded.
Yeah. So my very rough spoiler-free review is, you see there the IMDb rating on this is 6.8 out of 10 stars. Popularity-wise, it's 6 out of 11. I don't know why they do it out of 11 there, but
Okay.
but I think I agree with those ratings. It was okay. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great. I felt like something was missing in it, and I think part of the problem too is Voldemort there was never in the Kingsman trilogy that already came out, right?
Well, considering this takes place like what 80 years, 90
Right.
years before, he wouldn't.
So here's the problem: he's basically playing the same role he plays in James Bond. So I feel I'm like watching him going, wait a minute, what? Didn't I already see him? Like he'd be too old. And I'm like, oh wait, no, that's James Bond. But he's like playing the same character.
Well, I like Ray Fiennes just fine.
Yeah.
He's good in different things. There's sometimes he's really a really good actor, and there's a lot of times in roles like this, playing M in No Time to Die, which I just watched that this past week finally, and a few other things. He can come across very just the same. Yes. There's no range, and I think it's a lot of way the characters. I still want to see the Kingsman. I'll probably try and go see it in the theater if I can. It's funny, even though I took a couple of days off, I just didn't feel like going anywhere because after traveling a lot these last few weeks and a few other things, like I just want to stay home. But I'll probably try to catch it like on a Tuesday where I can get some free popcorn.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's enjoyable. I've heard different things. I've heard mostly the same thing. It's like it's just okay.
It's okay.
But I think I like the series of movies they've been doing, so I definitely see that. And they're supposed to be working on a TV series.
Well, the basic premise of this is it's basically they're doing very similar to what we're doing. They're doing historical fiction here. It takes place. This takes place during World War I. So they're taking all the major players and events of World War I, and they're putting some true history into there, but then modifying it for their universe. You see Rasputin up there. Personally, I've enjoyed reading about Rasputin and his biography and stuff. So it kind of made me cringe the way they handled his character. I didn't like it. They made him. I think they diverged too much. But anyways, that was just. If I didn't know anything about it, I probably would have liked it more. But it was an interesting character. But the bad guys are always colorful in these movies. Mm-hmm. That part didn't change. It's just something about, like with the other series, the Eggy he brought some kind of a charm to it that made you want to watch it. I felt like that was lacking here.
The first movie, when you with was it Colin Firth was his mentor,
mm-hmm.
and they killed off a lot of the actual Kingsmen that you really didn't need to know about anyways, and actually found out his father had been one, stuff like that. So, and they had a really good character there with him. He, coming from the streets, he had a home life that wasn't ideal because he had a abusive stepfather. So he kind of learned some stuff, and then it kind of showed him mature through the whole thing, but he still kind of kept that same street edge with him that added a little more to the, being a critic. That went loud. And so that's what I always liked about the first two. I mean, the second one I enjoyed well enough, but the first one's still my favorite.
Me too.
And the second one was fun. I liked the introduction of the American version of the Kingsmen.
Mm-hmm.
The Statesman. That was a neat little thing there, and we'll see what they do with the third one because they haven't given any spoilers on that. And they've definitely verged away from the original graphic novel source material in that. So
I think part of the problem with this series, this movie, is like the other one. It had more of its own voice. They had a certain style of comedy that was interwoven into it all, and I felt like they tried to tone it back a little at times, and I don't know, it just something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on what it was.
I'm wondering, I haven't looked at this, I'm wondering how much Millar was involved with this one.
His name was on the credits, but
name on the credits versus them saying, hey, we want to do this movie.
But he had like 3 different credits on the movie.
Yeah. Well, he's a creator.
Yeah, so, and he's the executive producer.
Matthew Vaughn is the director. He's the director of the other movies. He did the screenplay. So And Millar is based on the comic. So Millar didn't have as much involved. So it was Matthew Vaughn who's taking what he
Okay.
knows from doing the movies and creating it. And maybe part of that charm is in the writing there, that there's something missing from that because Millar's not involved in the writing as much.
Right. But
So, and he always gets a producer credit and stuff like that. So
if you're a big fan of this universe, go see it. If you're looking for a reason to get out, and go see it at a matinee, or like if you go to Imagine Theater, see it on a Tuesday night like we did, where you're only paying $5. I wouldn't want to pay full price for this movie. I probably will never see it again. But it was worth going out just for an evening.
yeah.
I will say there is a mid-credit scene, so stay tuned for that. And it definitely opens up to a larger. It opens up, like you said, there might be a TV series. This might be the lead into the TV series or a second movie. I don't know which. I assumed a second movie, but either way, it's definitely opening the door to a next chapter.
Yeah. So like I said, I've heard of series, and then who knows if this did well, which I don't think it did. They would do another movie, but I know they're doing the third Kingsman movies with Eggy in there and in that series there, which is fine in that. But speaking of Ray Fiennes, I'm going to digress over to, since I finally got a chance to watch No Time to Die. I think I liked it better than you did. The thing with the Daniel Craig Bond movies is they've never been captured that full magic of James Bond that we saw with previous incarnations, whether it was Roger Moore, Sean Connery, Pierce Brosnan. Those always had something that I enjoyed. All these movies, I even enjoyed No Time to Die. It was definitely, and it's been out long enough on Blu-ray now for a few weeks, and that's how I saw it. Was here's just there's spoilers here if you haven't seen it. I mean, Bond dies at the end. I mean, they basically took from Casino Royale to this one is a full incarnation of James Bond is what they did, different than the other ones where it was just these stories. And I think that's where it lost some of its magical appeal to it in terms of the, where you're mesmerized more, because they were trying to be a little more, and I liked it in Casino Royale, a little edgier, stuff like that, but it got a little more serious. I mean, in this one here, they killed off Bond, they killed off the CIA agent that was his friend.
Which I didn't mind that. My problem is
they killed him off in one of the Roger Moore movies too.
Yeah,
I believe it was.
But it's the how. It's James Bond is this world-class fighter, all this. He loses to this guy who sucks at fighting. Yeah. And he just got sloppy and basically made a mistake. It's like, I don't know. I felt like it should have been more of an intentional sacrificial death or something
and that's where
that gave it meaning instead of he got sloppy in a fight.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of it was just stupid mistakes and that. And then they built in the romance and child of Bond, and that's where I think they really lost it within No Time to Die. I didn't dislike the movie entirely. It's not something I'll watch many times, but someday down the road I may want to revisit it again if I want to revisit the series. But but it's one of those things where but it did say at the end of the credits, James Bond will return, not 007. So what that means to me is they're actually going to bring back a James Bond character. They introduced a different 007 in this. They let it know that's just a number. I didn't like that character at all. I thought they wrote her no charisma. Very very flat. And it's not the actress's fault. It was how it was written. She didn't come across as a 00 agent.
But she's not. Wasn't she also in Captain Marvel? Was she the pilot in Captain Marvel? Captain Marvel's friend / probably love interest.
I'm not sure.
I thought that was her.
It could be. I didn't mind her in that but my Captain Marvel itself, again, another flat written parts.
The writing,
yeah, and stuff like that.
I always felt with the Daniel Craig Bond movies is there was so much potential that they left out there. They didn't take advantage. I think they had a really good core of something that they just.
Yeah, she was. She was in Captain Marvel. She was
okay,
and she's supposed to be coming back in the Marvels.
Really?
But that's what it says. Now it's probably a flashback. I believe it's a flashback though.
Although we didn't see her die, did we?
No, we didn't. That was implied.
So they could have her kidnapped by the Skrulls or something.
WandaVision implied that with her daughter, and I think we'll see it as a flashback,
right,
with the daughter coming in. But yeah, I just it's I said I think there's a lot of missteps, and I had no problem with them giving her the moniker of 007 because they explained that Daniel
It's a
Craig,
title. It's not
yeah,
a. You're right.
yeah, Daniel Craig had retired. He was in
Right.
retirement, and he was in hiding too because he knew that Spectre was still trying to kill him, regardless. And that's when he met became the love interest, and then Uh, it's funny though, is like all of a sudden, we see them together. There's the big action sequence, which is a typical Bond opening action sequence, and then we don't see them again, and they don't really say how many years go by, but it was what, at least 8 years.
But what drove me
So
nuts? Okay, that scene.
yeah.
So like he goes visits this grave, and it's been like 5 years.
Mhm.
He goes there and he sets off an alarm, and immediately, so all these bad guys were waiting for 5 years right around the corner with guns ready for 5 years. They just sat there. It's like the second he set off the alarm, they were there so fast. It's like, come on. And he's like, yes, I knew you would come here, so I've been waiting all this time. Really? You had people armed just standing there for 5 years nonstop, waiting for him to show up.
Well, he had an eye that was in his head that they had another one somewhere else he could see everybody. So
Yeah.
yeah, they did.
It's
And they
like,
got paid.
yeah, it's just like, I
So
don't know. With how fast they responded, I'm like, come on.
yeah.
At least make it where they somehow got tipped that he was showing
Well,
up there.
and that's the whole thing with Bond too, is you really, and this goes even with the way that was done with the Roger
Yeah.
Moore, you have to suspend belief on
Yeah.
actual what would happen, because it's just the way it is. And most likely it's stuff like that is like they were constantly, I think if a lot of it was, with Bond like that, he's constantly being trailed. There's no way he could have hid because he's too, first of all, he never changed his name, never changed his look. And at this point in that career of the Daniel Craig Bonds, it's like everybody knows who James Bond is.
Right. Now, I will say,
So
I think they missed an opportunity here.
mhm.
I liked the idea of how they handled the 007 title. And like I said, I wasn't crazy about the actress. I thought it was pretty flat. It could have been the writing, could have been her. I think it was the writing personally.
Mhm.
But that was their to finally separate James Bond from the title 007 and show it can go to someone else. And then with him passing on, it's the perfect springboard to open this up to a larger universe where the series can follow the 007 title, and at some point when you're ready to switch bonds, have that bond killed off and we see a new bond that maybe was being mentored or whatever,
in
a new
some
double O
ways I think
move
they
in.
may have done that if they choose to go that route, because they for the first time in any of the movies, we see someone else that's given the title 007,
Right.
and and it's all done in quick dialogue too, like it's just a number, it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
I did like that they kept having her questioning for like 5 minutes in one sequence. Was he 007 now that he's back active? Is he 007? Is he that was ridiculous. They
Yeah.
didn't need to go that way. And
Well, I think what it showed
then
is the importance of that specific title. And then it added credence when later on she
well, and that's what I was getting to
personally gives it
is
up.
I thought it was ridiculous. It was too much of her whining about it, and then later on she gives it up. And
Yeah.
I thought the way they handled that was just a little bad writing on that. I think
Yeah.
but for the most part, I think that if we do see more James Bond movies, it's because it's always been James Bond 007 in,
Right.
whatever.
I
And because if they were to get rid of the James Bond aspect of the character, I think that it wouldn't matter. They should just go to a new series called MI6, and
Yeah. Or just call it 007 and you
yeah,
follow the title.
yeah.
But like what got me was the last, like you said, it said James Bond will return. Like it should have
Yes.
said 007 will return. Because you don't, is that James Bond or is that the title and somebody else will be 007 in the next movie?
I think in the long run it has to be James Bond, because I think that just going 00 movies, 007 or whatever, will have the same impact of people wanting to see him as much as the James Bond name it does. Because the thing with James Bond, when you back to the reason people still love the Sean Connery, especially the Pierce Brosnan, Roger Moore, is James Bond was the person that all the guys wanted, just like rock stars, was the guy that all the guys want to be, and the guy that all the girls want to sleep with. That's what was always the appeal of a James Bond to people that like the James Bond movies. So
Right.
I think going to a 007, bounce around from different people, whether male, female, whatever, wouldn't have the same effect as having a single person. So
in talking about this has been big this last week. This story is from 2 days ago. Henry Cavill's name's been really put to the James Bond. Now this happens a lot. We always go through a wave. So right now he's the flavor of the month for this James Bond rumors, but he is English, and which is an important part of the thing. You really shouldn't cast an American as James Bond.
Well, and that's one thing they've always said is they would not. I mean, that's
Right.
There's been Americans that wanted to play. There's been rumors of different Americans constantly getting the roles, but realistically, it's just like with the Harry Potter movies. In the Harry Potter movies, they only cast for all the principal characters British actors. So all the major characters. Some of the ancillary characters, a couple of goblins, side characters, a few of those were American. But for the most part, any major character had to be British. And that's because Robin Williams wanted to play Hagrid, and they said no because you're not British. Not that they didn't want him on there, but
I cannot imagine Robin Williams as Hagrid.
I think it would have been a little more comedic at that point. Now he may have taken it seriously because I read an article about that. What? He actually loved the books. He thought great stories. He would love to have played the role, and we've seen in some of his roles he can play serious, but
Sirius
at the same
Black?
time. Yeah, he can actually Sirius Black. He could have done probably pretty well, but
he can do serious roles.
We saw him do serious movies. Roles. Yeah, and he was always fantastic. But I think that Robbie Coltrane, as a bigger individual and British, really was encapsulated the heart of who Hagrid was.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where he so owned that role. I will never be able to imagine another actor being Hagrid. I just can't.
It'll never be the same. Now, if you're a fan of the Harry Potter, watch the HBO reunion special. It was a lot of fun to see where everybody's at nowadays.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet. I so want to see that.
I watched it on Saturday. That was one of my key things I wanted to do. Besides, and I won't get into it this week because it's still too soon. I have watched Cobra Kai. So
I gotta get. I am still halfway through season 1, and I so want to see it. It's just I haven't. Other things keep popping up. Book of Boba Fett or Hawkeye, or there's always some series I end up doing.
Since I was home,
and they're like on season 9, aren't they? On Cobra Kai or something?
No, season 4.
Oh,
but they've been renewed through 5 at least that I know of, maybe more. It was a fun season. My spoiler-free review is it was good. If you're a fan of the series, you're gonna really enjoy it. It just had a lot too much in the middle that felt redundant to get to the end point. But it's definitely set up for another season.
Now there's a main character. There's a character in the Cobra Kai series. So we're in season 4 now.
Yeah.
Season 4 cast. Let me pull that up real quick because there's an interesting thing I read. Let's see. Well, I'll pull it up here. It's this actor here. I don't know who he plays, but you probably do. Okay, so here it is here. So here's the cast photo. So the gentleman in the middle there bending over with the white shirt. All right, here. See him next to Ralph Macchio. So the theory is this: Sony is connected to the Cobra Kai series.
Yeah.
And people are speculating. A lot of times these studios like to use actors who are signed with them. Sony also is head of the Spider-Verse that they're co-doing with Marvel.
Okay.
So a lot of people are speculating we may be seeing here. Oh God, I blanked all the time on the character. Miles. We're seeing this will be the future Miles, is what they're speculating.
If it is, it's not going to be tied into Cobra Kai. I don't think Cobra Kai is going to tie into anything with.
No. They're saying the actor will be cast because Sony is part of Cobra Kai and also the Spider-Verse. They're speculating he will be cast to be Miles.
Okay.
Is what they're speculating.
I'm trying to think. He looks kind of tall. There's a kid that came on this year.
Oh, wait. Maybe I got the wrong guy then. Because I don't watch the show.
Yeah, the kid that came on this year.
He is bent over really far. So that's not him.
Unless he grew like a foot between filming the season. Because they filmed this well over a year ago. They've already supposedly filmed season 5.
I don't know the character's name to look him up.
Yeah, give me just a second. I'll pop it up. but and it's possible that he shot up a foot because he was younger. I mean, a couple of the kids just from one season to the next, they jumped up quite a bit. So let's see here.
I may have the wrong character. Like I said, I don't watch it.
Yeah.
Let's see what we find here. Meet the cast. Here we go. I need photos though. anyways, whoever's playing the kid, the new kid, the one that came on this season, whoever that is who they're talking about.
Dallas Young plays Kenny, and he was short, skinny.
Yeah,
and he's
and he does fight scenes, right? He's
he ends up doing a lot of that stuff. He's been in a bunch of stuff for a while.
Oh yeah, he's way younger. He's way younger.
Yeah. So if that's him, because that didn't look like him, but it kind of did, but because again, he could have shot up a foot in the over year and a half that they filmed this.
Yeah, looking at this though, I think I just got the wrong guy.
Okay.
I didn't realize how far he was bending over, but there he is there. That's who I was talking about, Dallas Young.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one I got pulled up there. He was great. I liked him in this one. And he is kind of how a couple of the kids were in the first season where, got picked on, stuff like that. All of a sudden he becomes joins with Cobra Kai, earns his way in. Of course, he's got to go a different route because by this season, and this spoiler, so sorry, Scott, but Kreese is in charge of Cobra Kai. So,
I figured from the
yeah, I mean it's there. So
he was in Ready Player One. He played an elementary school kid. And he's so young. It's it's not like there's many roles he could have done. But the Good Place he popped in. He was young Uzo in the Good Place.
Okay.
Yeah. So
he's been around. I think because I'm not sure how old he is. He looks to be like he's around like 14 or so. He could be 16 by now. Like I said, they filmed season 4 well over a year ago, year and a half ago. Supposedly, if they filmed season 5, they try to stay ahead, but they're still releasing them around the new year. And I think part of it is just fitting in the shooting schedules. I think they jumped all over that when they had a chance because with COVID messing up a lot of shooting schedules.
Yeah,
and that so.
Well,
and there is some things I'm seeing. I pulled it up real quick. A few rumor, nothing official, of course.
Right, nothing official.
Posting that he could be Miles Morales, and actually he would be. He's really, when you see him in season 4, Cobra Kai, he's really good, and he's got the agility to where I think he could pull it off. I think it all depends on how tall he gets. And Miles Morales has always been a character that was younger. He was 14, 15. So we have to take that into account. And if they're going to do something with him in some of the movies or on his own live action, they'd want to do it sooner than later.
Yeah. So there you have it.
Yeah.
Let's jump into Book of Boba Fett real quick. How about that?
Sounds good. We had the first episode last week. Not going to give any spoilers. Talk about this week's here, but it follows a similar where we have current times of where he's at, and then we're getting flashbacks. And I like how they're handling the flashbacks. This takes place when he's got a bacta tank that he's trying to continuously heal himself because he still has tons of the scars and things from being in the Sarlacc pit. And then what we see in this first season is himself getting slapped around and beaten up by some Tusken Raiders.
Yeah, it's I've been enjoying it. Some people have been complaining. Here's the thing, people. This is episode 1. Every series, Hawkeye, WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, everyone complains during episode 1. It's all set up. You got to allow a story to set up people. God, it's like, oh my God, it's going so slow. Well,
it was 35 minutes. It was 35 minutes, and they had to set up everything.
Yeah. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. You got to have
35 minutes where they had set up some stuff there, and I loved it personally. Yeah.
Now the interesting thing about this is the reveal.
The thing I like about this one here. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. You there?
No, go ahead.
Oh, what's interesting?
I think we have a delay.
I think so. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so what's interesting is the reveal of Boba Fett coming out of the Sarlacc pit. We, as fans, we've been wanting to see that forever, and we finally got that, which was very satisfying to me. And what's funny though is it follows exactly word for word the Parks and Rec, um, um, Patton Oswald's account of how this should happen. Have you seen that video?
I haven't, but I heard it matched up.
Yeah, it's funny. They play the video alongside him describing it. The timing matches and everything. You would think he was narrating it live instead 9 years ago telling it. So they had to have watched that and used that as their storyboarding.
Oh, I'm sure they did. I mean, it's the thing is they're Filoni and Favreau, they're not ashamed to go and look at everything that
Mhm.
talks about all these characters, regardless of where it came from, whether it was expanded universe Star Wars, now a Legend series, or other people talking. They're like, you know what, those are the fans. And Oswald is a well-known fan of Star Wars. He's been very outspoken on Star Wars for years. So for him to say that, I mean, and that's the thing too, is and a lot of it did been referenced in other stuff too in very similar matters. I did like though, and people were complaining about it, but I liked it. There was a stormtrooper in there, and that's how you got the air hose. And I thought that was interesting on that.
Yeah, I saw people like, well, why is there a stormtrooper there? There was no stormtroopers at Jabba thing. They clearly say in Return of the Jedi when they sentence Han and Luke, where you will be digested over 1,000 years. So that guy could have been down there for 20 years. I mean, it's not a very rapid process. So
Mhm.
um, it's not like some kind of continuity error that, well, there were no stormtroopers at the battle at Jabba's skiff.
Well, it's because the Sarlacc pit was there long before the Battle of the Skiffs, and that
Exactly.
which is we do see also because it's Boba breaking through basically kills the Sarlacc pit monster. And then we do see the burned out husk of the sail barge there.
Yep. That
So
was cool.
that was kind of neat on that.
So you got three things going on that they have to pull off in this, which is it is slowing down the pace a little, but they have always come through, I feel, and I think the reward will be coming in future episodes. But they're retelling almost like an origin story. How
Yes.
did Boba Fett survive? They're also doing setup for the current story, which is kind of a they keep going back and forth with the memories and telling kind of an origin story of Tusken Raiders. We're doing a deep dive into the Tusken Raiders culture.
Yes, and these are different looking Tusken Raiders than we're used to.
Yeah, which is really cool.
Mhm.
There's different tribes, is what we're learning, and they're not all the same. Much like even Native American tribes, not every tribe dressed the same, or they all had different practices and culture. So it's really cool that they're doing this deep dive. But then
Yeah.
you have the main story that they're also setting up to move forward. So you kind of have three big goals all happening at once.
Yes, and that's the whole thing with this is it is a true origin story. We have to have I like that the fact that we're getting a movement on here's what's going on currently since we know where they're at, and that we were not having to wait like 4 episodes to find out where they're at there in Mos Espa. We're getting a little bit of that, and the majority of the episodes, and this is true for episode 2, has been this flashback because this is all about building the character of Boba Fett that we never had before. The character of Boba Fett has always been just a bounty hunter. In the movies, they never got into any detail on him other than that. And then we saw a little bit more of him from the prequels. We learned a little bit about young Boba. Clone Wars did a little bit more with him, with again young Boba again. We got too much into Boba as an adult that we know from the original trilogy forward. That so now we're learning, a little bit about him where he is now, and it's actually fleshing out this character, and we're essentially getting a brand new character out of this, which I'm liking a lot. A lot of neat things. Some of the things we saw in Mandalorian season 2 are now being explained with this episode 1, and then even episode 2 will explain some more.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it's been good. There's a Twi'lek, female Twi'lek that they show that he talks to.
mhm.
I didn't realize that is Jennifer Beals,
Yep.
no better known for Flashdance.
Yep, 40 years ago
So
almost.
she she's kept herself in good shape over all these
Yeah,
years.
she looks good,
Um,
and I think she's gonna be an interesting character on this because they popped her in there real quick, and they're making a big deal saying she's in the series. She's credited up there with Tamara Morrison and all them. So I have a feeling she's gonna be around quite a bit. So
yeah, this is the official trailer for Book of Boba Fett that's going. There's a Bomar monk going by. And you see Boba suiting up. There's a scene that is shown in here. Well, that's episode 2. Never mind. I'm not going to comment on it till next week. But regarding episode 1, I'm trying to think of anything else that popped out. I've just been enjoying it. Fennec has been fun to see their relationship together. Everybody coming to pay tribute to Boba because he's the new crime lord in town. The Gamorrean guards, they're a little more fit now.
yeah.
They're not what we're used to, which surprises me. Like before, they
Well,
showed.
we have some time that passed though from when Jabba was there versus when Bib Fortuna was there, and I think some of that is a little bit fit, but I think it's also a fact that even though Bib Fortuna got fat, he was running a very lean organization.
Right.
And so the money and food and everything else was not flowing. Because I mean, when they came in and took over, killed Bib Fortuna at the end of the Mandalorian season 2, there was really nothing else there. Nobody was there. So I mean, him sitting on that throne was more of a figurehead. Like, yeah, whatever. I don't think he was really running anything.
Yeah. Now, one thing I will say, you have to get used to, if you're a fan like me, is throughout the series. If you're like me and you had the expanded universe that you grew up with, reading all the books and everything, Boba Fett was very big on never taking off his helmet. He's almost more like the Mandalorian that we know from the Mandalorian series. He always kept his face covered. But in here, he's always taken the helmet off. Yeah. There is a very clear distinction between who Boba Fett is now versus the Boba Fett we knew in the Legends series. And you really got to get that out of your head. It's not the same Boba that we came to know. He has no problem taking his helmet off everywhere he goes. But it's okay. I think he still has the spirit. He's more warrior-like than what he was in the Legend series too. He was very pragmatic, unemotional. He kind of keeps his emotions down too in this, but he gets brutal. Whereas the Boba Fett in the old series was more efficient, I would say. I don't know, but it was just all about money. Now he wants to be a crime lord instead of a bounty hunter.
Yeah,
and he's taken over. So I look forward to the rest of the series. I think, I was very spoiler free for today. Very happy with today's episode, and can't wait to see what's next.
Yeah, same here. So we'll talk more about episode 2 next week, and try to keep the spoilers from current episodes from happening while we're doing the show, guys, because we want you to enjoy them as well as we do. I mean, we get up since we do the show, we can catch it a little bit early. So, but I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking to see how many episodes. I don't think we get. I think it's only 6 episodes for this series.
Is it only 6?
Seven. According to Wikipedia, 7. So,
well, one or two of them better be a like a triple-sized episode.
Probably will be.
I will say,
but I think they're building up towards setting this up as either an ongoing series or doing some more crossover stuff within the Star Wars television series stuff they're building. Well, Favreauverse.
Well, and like if the average episode is what would you say 35 minutes was the first episode?
Yep.
That's 4 hours. That's basically if we got a trilogy.
Yeah.
For movies. So, one season is like a full trilogy. We used to have, it's funny how we get now. We're like, oh, it's only 7 episodes and oh, this is awful. How am I going to survive? We used to only get one movie and then have to wait 5 years.
Yeah.
For part 2 and then 5 years. It's like, well, from Return of the Jedi, it was 7 years we had to go from the first Star Wars to Return of the Jedi to get 4 hours worth of movies.
Actually, about almost 7 hours, but
7 hours. Okay.
still,
But
I mean,
now
we're
it's,
getting a lot more. Yeah.
yeah, we get so much more content now. It's so much nicer. So we're getting
Yep.
kind of spoiled, I think. But I'm looking
Yep.
forward to what's next.
I'm waiting to see. I figure at the end of the series or the season, they'll announce what's next for Boba Fett, and I would assume they're going to continue on with the Boba Fett series, and then we also got Mandalorian coming out sometime in March, I believe it is.
So last thing I'll say about today's episode, once
Yep.
again, spoiler free, stay alert. There is a classic location that comes up with a classic characters, I will say, that you may or may not know depending on how much you love Star Wars and get into deleted scenes, I'll say.
Yeah.
So if you have a sharp eye, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Vanessa, yeah. Hey, Vanessa, how you doing?
Hi, Vanessa.
Yep. Yeah, we try not to do spoilers the day of stuff. We give warnings ahead of time for that.
Yeah.
Because it's fun. Definitely, you'll enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. So I can't wait for you to check that out. And that's
we'll talk about it next week. So tune in next week for our opinions on today's episode.
Yeah. Now, Scott shared something the other day on Facebook, and this was leads to our next discussion here about the inner monologue, an interesting video, and it's something I never really thought of, but it makes sense. Like my comment was, I now understand why in school there were some students that could not read quietly. They had to say the words. People couldn't just say stuff in their head because not everybody has an internal monologue, which I found interesting because I got a freaking lot of voices up there.
Right.
But I think that's why I'm creative too on writing and everything else, because the voices are there and things like that. And it kind of leads to, when you have a song in your head, an earwig, as they call it, I constantly have something going on in my head with something, and it never shuts up.
Yeah. Same here. And all this for me, this came about a while, like a year ago. And for the life of me, I cannot remember who I was talking to. I asked Jill, she said it wasn't her. But I was talking to somebody and I had made the comment, I wonder how deaf people who've been deaf their entire life, I'm like, how do they think? I said, I think in words. So for them, are they visualizing sign language when they think?
Yeah.
Because if you've been deaf your whole life, you don't know what a word sounds like. How are you doing your thought process? So I'm thinking, well, maybe they visualize sign language instead of saying the word. Yeah. So I just was speculating, like, I wonder how that is. And that person, whoever that was, looked at me like, what are you talking about? I go, when you think, you have a conversation in your head, you're using words, and they're like, no. And they look like I was an alien. I'm like, what do you mean no? How do you think? They're like, I just think. I'm like, but there's no voice? And they're like, no. So that's when I first discovered there's people out there who think different than I do. And I'm like, wow, that's weird, but I didn't know a name for it. And then this internal monologue thing popped up and I started researching. I'm like, oh my God, there's a word for this.
And I've heard that word before. I've heard the internal monologue and all that stuff. So I've heard that over the years. And I just didn't realize, I mean, my mind's always constantly going. I mean, people come up to me and sometimes, like when I'm working in that, and if I don't say anything to them, it's because I got a lot going on in my head. Mm-hmm. I'm actually at that point usually actively engaging my inner monologue, I should say. And but a lot of times it's still just going even when I'm paying attention to other stuff. But so when people say something, they go, "Hey, I was talking," I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." People think you spaced out. To me, I'm in another conversation somewhere else.
Right, which is when people talk to me, I can sometimes come across as irritated. And it's not that I'm irritated at them, but I was in the middle of a conversation and you interrupted it. Now I have to shut that conversation off, switch gears. But it's very interesting. So for those of you out there who don't have an internal monologue, the best way I can describe it is go watch Dexter or some show like that where they have their thoughts being spoken. So as almost like a narrator, so you can hear what they're thinking in the moment. Mm-hmm. That's how it is for me, where I have words and sentences and dialogue occurring. And even like I might think one thing, but say another. And it's interesting because in studying this, people were saying like, okay, so like if you're working a full day and you're about to leave and then your boss comes to you and they say, I need you to stay an extra hour. And they're like, in your head, you're saying, F this, F that, rah, 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 but outwardly you say, okay.
Yeah.
And they're like, you can't do that. And the people who have no inner monologue are like, no, I can't do that. For me to think those words, I'd have to vocalize them. It's like, wow, that's interesting.
And I think it goes to like I said, reading, especially when I've been like this since I was forever, my whole life. As soon as I learned how to read, in my head, I had two things going on. One is I could hear the voices of the characters. Number two is a lot of times I've always been able to visualize internally that too. So besides having the audio, I have an internal visual memory going on at the same time. And this is reading something I don't have any mental reference of. Like, if I read Harry Potter now, I see more of the movies and hear the movie sound and movies pictures. Prior to the movies of Harry Potter, if when I've read any fictional book or anything like that, I kind of created the character what they look like in my head based on the descriptions given and the way I thought the voices would sound with that. So that's always been how I've done that. And so, yeah, I find it interesting people don't have that. But yeah, my mind is constantly going. I have a nephew that said the same thing. I looked at him and he didn't think I understood. I said, no, I understand completely. I have control of it in a lot of ways to where it doesn't drive me crazy or
it's not like schizophrenia where you can't distinguish the voices from your own. You know it's your thoughts. And it's not like this audible hearing, but in your head, the words are there. And there is proof scientifically why you hear the words, because you have this dual track, so to speak, in your brain. You have the one track that is for vocal and one track that goes to your internal storage banks, and they run simultaneously when you're talking, which is what they were saying is why you hear it in your head what you want to say, and then you hear also what's coming out verbally on the other track. And sometimes we slip up words, and it's how we catch ourselves and correct ourselves. Because when the word doesn't match what the internal dialogue is, we know we messed up. And I thought that was interesting. So some people, though, they don't have the dual tracks. They have to vocalize for it to go into the storage banks, which was interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you find this when you're writing like Crimson Shadows and other stuff you work on, and when I'm writing too, is as I'm writing this stuff, my mind sometimes is going faster than I can type. But at the same time, I'm hearing all the words and I'm
visualizing
it. I'm hearing all this, and so there's a lot of times I have to stop and sit back and just let it play out for a minute, then go back and redo it again.
That's exactly how I do it. Yep.
And that's because I get so far ahead of myself. Now I used to. It's funny since my car accident 15 years ago. I'm not as fast speaking as I used to be, and fast and certain things like that. I still have a lot of speed, faster than most. But I used to be like, remember the old FedEx commercial? The guy talked really fast. I could get that fast talking and not lose track. And it baffled some people. I baffled me sometimes. I'm like, I know. I just started going, and he's like, but it's things like that it's all in the head. And so like and a lot of times, so just creating, when people ask me at shows, like, how do you create an idea? And I said, well, something sparks it. And this is really what it is. Speaking of this inner conflict, this is what happens is the idea gets sparked, and then my mind takes over and starts crafting the story. It's basically I have like a best way is I have a writer's room in my head that starts crafting this story out a little bit, and that's where it comes from. And and there's this and there's that, and I'll even talk out loud to myself when I'm by myself as I'm going through this in my head too, and have that conversation. And that's how I've created different ideas I've come up with that for writing some of the stories and comics and things like that. So it's an interesting thing that, and it is, and in some ways I almost feel bad for people that don't have it, because I think it's added so much more to my life in terms of imagination and
which
everything.
is funny you say that, because I agree. However, when you read the comments of the people who don't have it, they feel bad for us, because they're like, how that's so noisy. Like, how do you not have silence? And like, they feel bad for us. So I think at the end of the day, it's just, we all live a life. We are used to what our condition is. And, and it's a whole spectrum. There are people, I think we're on the far end of the spectrum where it's all the time.
Yeah.
And then there's a other far end of the spectrum, which is never. And then there's a whole range in between. Some people just think in simple words like TV, monitor, that's dirty. they're not thinking in sentences, but just concepts.
Yeah.
And so there's a whole range in between that occur. But even the people with no internal monologue do say they do hear songs in their head. So
Yeah.
that, I'm guessing that's because maybe that's the creative side of the brain. It's a different area of the brain than maybe
Possibly,
speech
yeah.
or other things.
And I get
But
that too. And a lot of times I never know which song is going to stick in my head. As soon as I get one, I'm like, oh, I don't want to hear that song. So I try to find something else to listen to a couple times, try to get it that to take over. And sometimes it's like, screw it, I'll just live with it for a while.
Yeah. Well, what you do at that point is you sing it out loud to make sure other people are infected with that same horrible song. That's that's the proper way to utilize that.
Yeah, I always got to do like Cartman. I was Sailing Away or something like that. He had to sing the whole song, or it's stuck in his head.
So this brings up, different people think differently, and really, at the end of the day, it's our brain is there. We have all of these senses. We have we have eyes, nose, mouth, ears. We experience the world around us through these various tools we have.
Yep.
And the brain is simply processing that information for us to understand the world around us. Mm-hmm. And with us all thinking differently, there's different things that come up. And like, for instance, taste. I always talk about this. It's so weird to me how, like, why is it like one person can eat asparagus and be like, wow, that is amazing. And someone else eat it and be like, that is horrible. Like,
it's like me with tomatoes.
Right. What if we all actually like the same flavor? It's just for you to experience that flavor, your brain has come to identify these different foods differently. Maybe you have to eat a hamburger to get the same experience of that I get eating chicken.
Well, that's the sweet and savory side of cooking, and it varies from person to person what they find, which affects their sweet side versus their savory side, and sometimes there's a mix of both within there.
But but how do I know how you experience sweet is the same how I experience sweet? Like, or colors, what you see as blue. Maybe when I look at that same blue, I see what you see as red. But it's just my whole life I've been told that's blue. You've been told that's blue, so we agree it's blue. But if we could actually switch brains, I'd be like, that's not blue, that's red. You know what I mean? But our brain has interpreted it.
And that would be totally something that comes up in The Matrix.
Exactly. Like,
because it's like in the first Matrix movie when he's eating the steak and he's turning in everybody else, Joey Pance's character. And he goes, I know this isn't real. I know it's telling my mind this tastes like steak, but it tastes really good. I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, it's how things taste. It's like even in Star Trek, from Next Generation on, they always used replicators, which means they were taking organic material of whatever it was, your poop, and turning it into food.
There's only so many sources of organic materials in the middle of space.
So, and then you see, if you go and watch Picard and you see when he visits Riker and Deanna Troi, they're actually growing their own foods, and they made a comment how much better it tastes, because it now the real, because you can only replicate so much. And again, how people taste one thing is the same. I use Mom as an example because of the way her sense of smell has been gone for decades, and so it's not a COVID thing; it's been gone for decades, and so it affects her sense of taste. Sometimes she'll ask me how things taste versus when she tastes, because she knows that her taste is completely off of mine, but it's the exact same product. And I think that all plays a factor in having how your sensory is, like with the smell and taste and all that stuff, and then your eyes, all that stuff plays a factor in how you perceive food or colors or everything. And we all see things. I think it also why we see stuff on the internet where people go, what color is this dress? And you get 20 different comments of, no, it's this, it's blue, it's aqua, it's this, it's that. Right. It's like Dr. Axelberry. Well, is that green, or is that seafoam green, or is that blue, or what color are you seeing there? And of course, your monitor could play a factor in that if it's not tuned right. But I think it's all tied into that. How the brain is so much. And the thing is too is that we think about this, how our internal monologues go, and how much of our brain we're using. I mean, everybody uses, they say about 8% to 10% of your brain as the average. I mean, they don't have a true gauge for that, but I think that the more creative you are, and they show it's on one side, the more percentage of power your brain you're using.
So I do want to bring up before we close out. So they give examples. So how do you know if you have an inner monologue? Here are some of the points they put. You might feel like you have a constant narration present in your head. You may notice yourself repeating sentences to yourself reminding yourself of things, coming up with solutions, and rehearing conversations or giving yourself feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Another point is you likely couldn't stop your thoughts from verbally running through your mind, even if you tried. This is why it's helpful to focus on replacing negative thoughts with positive, realistic ones rather than turning off inner thoughts altogether. That's true too. A lot of the research I've been doing here is the vast majority of people with inner monologues, it's a very negative voice. Mine isn't negative. Mine's very positive. I tend to be very negative about other people's intelligence and their decisions. I'm usually very confident in my own.
I get a mix. I get a mix between that. Sometimes
Yeah,
there's things that pop through my head, and I'm like, and I'll tell in my inner head, I'll tell myself to shut up.
And then here's this last point actually coincides with what you said earlier. Some people with inner monologues also have strong mental visuals that accompany their verbal thoughts. I think that's probably a given for creatives. It'd be interesting to study just creatives alone to see if it is an inner monologue a really important component to playing these things out. So,
and I'm wondering how many people have an inner monologue, but it's not as auditory as like ours is. But so that, I mean, I would assume a lot of writers do, because the amount of writing they do is it's coming out, but the way they come out with it is different than mine, where it's constantly going.
Well, like Quentin Tarantino, I just saw. I think it's an older interview, but I just saw, it's new to me, where he was talking about how when he writes, he actually doesn't get too detailed in the writing. He just kind of creates the framework of the story, because when he gets about 40% through with creating something, he's like, it's gone, because it no longer, it becomes its own thing, because the characters find their own voice in his head and they start dictating the path. So he kind of comes up with the initial concept, but then when he starts getting into detail, he knows when he starts getting about 40% through a story that the choices will be based upon the characters as he knows them now. Whereas when he wrote the initial story, he didn't know the characters. They were concepts to him, but they became real to him as they unfolds. And I even see that with Crimson Shadows. As I'm writing these characters, each one is starting to, which is why in all things, TV series, things like that, you go watch Star Trek Next Generation. Season 1 is horrible, but we didn't know it at the time because we didn't have any frame of reference. But as the seasons go, the actors found the voice, the characters found the voice, the writers found the voices of the characters, and it became more character driven instead of writer driven, and that's where it becomes better.
And that's why we see that in movies and TV shows, where as the years go on, the people that are the characters become more involved in the creative process, because they're the ones voicing this character, and by voicing it, they've been doing it over and over. It truly becomes a part of who they are, and they create that character come out more than just people sitting in a room writing about it every week.
Chris Hemsworth as Thor. He is Thor now. Thor 1 and 2. It's kind of blocky and trying to figure out who is Thor and what. But by the third movie and the Avengers and all these, he starts developing. Now he firmly owns the voice of Thor and who he is. And when they write for Thor now, they have a clear idea of who this character is, and they can make decisions of the story based upon what the character would do.
Yeah, and that's why I think anything you watch, if it seems like it's off character, that's because they're not listening to the actor that may have portrayed that character for X amount of time. And this is what the character would do. So, and that's what you saw within the last 3 Star Wars movies. So they weren't paying attention to what the characters were before, even though they've been years later. Well, we got to give them a new voice because it's been 30 years. No, you should have worked with them more on that. And I think that's where the fault lies in just the characterization of them. So, But yeah, hey, so check it out. If you got an inner monologue, listen to yourself. If it's negative,
there's tons on Google. You can Google it. There's a lot of interesting videos out there and things where they get into really good detail on what it is, how the brain works. So depending how geeky you want to get on it, you can do your own research. This was just kind of a little light talk to expose that there is an inner monologue. Like, I never even thought about that before. I just thought that's how all brains worked.
I didn't really get to it either. So it's fun to discuss that a little bit and look into it. So, hey, join us next week. We'll talk a little more about Book of Boba. Who knows what else? Got a lot of other fun stuff out there.
Bubba Fett.
Yeah, Bubba Fett.
Bubba Fett.
Yeah. from the deep south of Tatooine. So y'all have a great week.
Take care.